Sears are trying to prevent North Korean soldiers from being captured. There have been instances where they were executed by their own forces, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The head of state shared that he held a meeting of the staff of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Alexander Syrskyi, provided a separate briefing on the situation at the front. According to Zelensky, the most intense situation is observed in the Donetsk direction. Syrskyi also reported on the situation in Zaporizhia, Kherson and Kursk regions, including battles involving North Korean soldiers. They are suffering heavy losses, very heavy. We see that Russian military personnel and North Korean supervisors are not at all interested in the survival of these Koreans. Everything is organized so that it is almost impossible for us to capture them alive. They are finished off by their own people. There are such facts, and Russians send them into assaults with minimal protection, the president added. He confirmed that Ukrainian defenders managed to capture a few North Korean soldiers, but they were so severely wounded that they could not be resuscitated. This is one of the manifestations of madness dictatorships are capable of. The Korean people should not lose their people in battles in Europe, and this situation can be influenced, particularly by Korea's neighbours, including China. If China is sincere in its statements that the war should not escalate, it needs to exert appropriate influence, and Pyongyang, Zelensky emphasized. Previously, South Korean intelligence reported that Ukrainian soldiers had successfully captured a North Korean soldier. Relevant photos were published online on December 26th. It was later revealed that the North Korean soldier succumbed to severe injuries and could not be saved. North Korea is suffering significant losses in the Russia-Ukraine war. According to the latest data, the number of dead and wounded has exceeded 3,000, yet North Korea is ready to increase its support for Russia. North Korea is suffering significant losses in the Russian-Ukraine war. According to the latest data, the number of dead and wounded has exceeded 3,000, yet North Korea is ready to increase its support for Russia. Thousands of North Korean soldiers help Russia advance in the Kursk region. The extent of their impact is uncertain, but by mid-December, they were actively involved in assault operations to the north, west and east of the town of Sudzia, which remains under Ukrainian control. They are used as infantry without vehicles. They are not prepared to counter drones, leading to heavy losses. It seems the Russians didn't inform the Koreans well about the use of UAVs, which shows that for Russians, Korean lives have no value, said Andrei. They are used as infantry without vehicles. They are not prepared to counter drones, leading to heavy losses. It seems the Russians didn't inform the Koreans well about the use of UAVs, which shows that for Russians, Korean lives have no value, said Andrei Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council.
Finnish authorities detained a ship linked to neighbouring Russia as they investigate whether it damaged a Baltic Sea power cable and several data cables, police said in the latest incident involving disruption of key infrastructure in the region. Finnish police and border guards boarded the vessel, the Eagle S, and took over the command bridge. Helsinki Police Chief Jari Liuku told a news conference. The vessel was being held in Finnish territorial waters, police said. The Eagle S is flagged in the Cook Islands, but was described by Finnish customs officials and the European Union's Executive Commission as part of Russia's shadow fleet of fuel tankers. Those are aging vessels with obscure ownership acquired to evade Western sanctions. The Eagle S's anchor is suspected of causing damage to the cable, YLE television reported, relying on police statements. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, said in a statement that the incident was the latest in a series of suspected attacks on critical infrastructure and commended the Finnish authorities for their swift action in boarding the suspected vessel. The ship is part of Russia's shadow fleet, which threatens security and the environment while funding Russia's war budget, said Kallas, a former Estonian prime minister. We will propose further measures, including sanctions, to target this fleet. The Estlink 2 power cable, which brings electricity from Finland to Estonia across the Baltic Sea, went down on Wednesday. The incident follows damage to 2 data cables and the Nord Stream gas pipelines, both of which have been termed sabotage. The Estonian government met in emergency session over the incident. The shadow tankers are helping Russia to earn funds that will aid Russian hybrid attacks, Prime Minister Kristen Michal said at a news conference. He said repairs to the cable could take as long as 7 months. Repeated damage to Baltic Sea infrastructure signals a systemic threat, not mere accidents. Estonia's President Alar Karis said on X, Estonia will take action to counter this threat, together with Finland and other NATO allies. Russian President Vladimir Putin is trying to cover up the shooting down of an Azerbaijani passenger plane by Russian air defense forces in every way possible. It is even alleged that he begs President of Kazakhstan for this. Recall a passenger plane operated by Azerbaijan Airlines, which crashed in Kazakhstan on December the 25th, was reportedly downed by a Russian Pantsir S air defense system. Reuters reported citing anonymous sources familiar with the matter. 4 sources in Azerbaijan, privy to preliminary findings of the crash investigation, stated that the plane was indeed hit by Russian air defenses. One source said that initial results indicate the aircraft was struck by the Russian Pantsir S missile and gun system, and its communications were disrupted by electronic warfare systems as it approached the city of Grozny in Russia's Republic of Chechnya. Reserve Colonel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Roman Svitan, also says that based on the damage the plane sustained, it was attacked by an anti-aircraft missile system similar to the Pantsir. According to him, air defense forces have recently been redeployed to the North Caucasus. It is impossible for them, especially at the time of deployment, to quickly establish communication with civilian air traffic control mechanisms. This led to the disaster. The plane that took off from Baku was supposed to land in Grozny, but was mistaken for a drone flying over military areas. They tried to shoot it down, but the plane is still big. The missile explosion most likely occurred far from the plane itself. It flew into a cloud of shrapnel, striking elements, the expert added. Roman Svitan says to Charter 97 media outlet that any commission can very easily determine which missile and which complexes striking elements damaged this plane in the air. The striking elements in civilian aircraft, for the most part, remain in the seats forever. Even if it fell, crashed, burned, sank, all this is easy to determine. I think that everything will be revealed in the near future, no matter how Putin tries to beg Tokayev to hide this fact. I think everything will come out, he added. According to him, the series of uncoordinated actions of the dispatchers are also notable. Instead of landing this plane at a nearby airfield, they hijacked it to Kazakhstan. If they had started landing it right away, there would have been no catastrophe. The plane would have landed. Not a single person would have died. When the missile hit, most likely, the hydraulic control system pipelines of the plane were broken. While the fluid was in the hydraulic accumulators, the plane was still more or less controllable. It could have landed, and after the fluid left the system, the plane lost control and crashed. To sum it up, it's about 90% probability that the plane was hit by a missile, he says. Oleg Belousov, the host of the Channel 24 YouTube channel, also analyzed the situation with the crashed Azal plane. He noted that the passenger plane was shot down by Russian air defense forces, in particular the strange reaction of Russian President Vladimir Putin to the tragic incident, as well as the confession of the nephew of the Chechen leader. In fact,